Aliens called it a death sentence. One sip and your organs melt. They banned it in 37 star systems. But then a human walked in, wore shades indoors, ordered it with ice, and said, "Tastes like soda." The bartender dropped her glass. The Queen demanded his capture. And the galaxy? It lost its damn mind. Because what happens next should have been impossible. But this is humanity we're talking about. And what they do next, you're not ready for it. Welcome to Humanity Prime HFY, where the universe learns not to mess with Earth. I'm your narrator for tonight's wild ride, the voice that tells you just how dangerous humans can be, with a wink and a smile. So grab a drink, but maybe not that one. Let's begin the story. The neon lights of Zinthar's most dangerous bar flickered like they were scared of something. Inside, it was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that only comes when death is watching. On the counter sat a glowing blue drink, electric, crackling, swirling like a living storm trapped in a glass. They called it void venom. It didn't just kill, it humiliated. Spines twisted, blood boiled, lungs exploded, all in under 10 seconds. One sip, and you weren't just dead, you were a joke. That's why aliens only ordered it for enemies, for execution, for entertainment. No one ever ordered it for fun, until tonight. The doors slid open with a hiss. In walked something strange. Tall, lean, human. Skin like raw courage, wrapped in a navy blue jacket, black sunglasses, no armor, no weapons, just a smirk. The bartender, a six-eyed alien with shiny purple skin and curves in very interesting places, tilted her head. "Well, well, what's this?" she purred. The human walked up, slow and smooth. He didn't look left, didn't look right, just pointed at the glowing glass. "I'll take that," he said. The bar froze. Someone coughed. Someone else dropped their tail in shock. "You want void venom?" the bartender said, blinking two of her eyes while the others stayed locked on his lips. He leaned in, cool as ice. "Yeah, and make it sexy." She laughed, half nervous, half turned on. "You're human, aren't you?" "Last time I checked." "You'll die." He slid a credit chip across the bar. "Then let's make it worth it." The drink buzzed as she pushed it to him. Electricity licked the rim like it was hungry. He picked it up. Aliens watched from the shadows. One recorded. Another whispered, "Is he insane?" He lifted the glass, tipped it back, and drank. Every single drop. The bar held its breath. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3. No screaming, no melting, no death. Just a long, satisfied "ah" as he wiped his mouth with his sleeve. He smacked his lips. "Tastes like soda." The room lost its mind. Chairs fell. Glasses shattered. Someone ran into a wall. A tentacled alien fainted face first into a nacho plate. The bartender? She was still staring, mouth open, eyes dilated, legs suddenly crossing. "What the hell are you?" she whispered. He leaned closer, lips just inches from her ear. "Thirsty." She bit her lower lip with a fang. "Name's Jake Mercer," he said. "And sweetheart, if you think that was wild, wait till you see what I do after 2 drinks." Before she could reply, the door burst open again. A gang of armored aliens stomped in, weapons drawn, eyes glowing red. "There he is!" The bartender ducked, pulling Jake behind the bar. "You idiot! You just drank the galaxy's most illegal poison! They put a bounty on your head 5 minutes ago!" Jake checked his reflection in the bar mirror, fixed his hair. "Do I at least look good in my death photo?" She groaned. "They're gonna kill you!" "Let him try." He stood up, blew her a kiss, and walked toward the incoming guns like he was high, eating to a dance floor. The leader aimed at his chest. "Jake Mercer of Earth, surrender or die." Jake stopped, just a few feet away, then smiled. I'll take option 3. Before they could blink, he moved. Fast. Too fast. 3 blasters flew out of alien hands. A 4th got a punch to the jaw so hard he kissed the ceiling. Jake spun, kicked, and flipped a table into another one's face. The bartender peeked up, watching with wide eyes. "Who the hell is this guy?" she whispered. Jake didn't answer. He just winked at her mid-fight. And that wink? Let's just say, she felt it in all 6 of her hearts. 10 seconds later, it was over. Aliens groaned on the floor. Blasters broken. Egos shattered. Jake dusted off his sleeves like he just finished dancing. He walked back to the bar and grabbed a cherry, popped it into his mouth, turned to her. Now where were we? But before she could give him that look again, a new voice echoed through the bar. Dark, royal, dangerous. "You were with me," the voice said. Everyone turned. Standing in the doorway was Queen Solara, ruler of the Zinthari Empire, tall, cold, deadly, and wearing a dress that broke at least 5 intergalactic laws. She looked straight at Jake and smiled. "Come with me, human. I want to see what else you can survive." The queen didn't walk. She floated. Her gown shimmered like black silk soaked in starlight. Her heels didn't make a sound, but somehow, everyone heard her coming. Jake stood still, like a deer in headlights. Except this deer had a hard jawline and was chewing gum. Queen Solara stopped just a foot away from him, close enough that Jake could smell her perfume. Spice, power, and something faintly illegal. She tilted her head, her voice like honey wrapped around a dagger. "Void venom was not made for humans," she said. Jake popped another cherry. "Guess I'm not your average human." She smirked. Her eyes slowly scanned him from head to boots. Clearly, the bartender behind the counter clenched her jaw. She didn't like this. Jake Mercer was hers, at least for the night. Or she thought he was. "Why don't you come with me?" the queen said, turning slowly, hips swaying like a threat. "I want a private demonstration." Jake looked at the bartender. She raised one brow, arms crossed, 4 of them. Jake looked back at the queen. "Can I bring a +1?" The queen laughed, dark and deep. "You can bring whatever you think can survive." He shrugged. "Then I guess I'm coming alone." He followed her out, half the bar still unconscious, the rest pretending not to be watching. Outside, a black hovercraft waited, sleek, dead silent, dead expensive. Jake slid into the seat beside her. The door hissed shut. Inside, no windows, just red lights. He leaned back, eyes roaming. "Nice ride," he said. Queen Solara didn't respond. She tapped her ring. A hologram popped up, showing him drinking the void venom. "You humiliated half my empire in one sip," she said. "They're calling you Soda Man." Jake laughed. "Could have been worse. They could have called me Sparkle Boy." She didn't laugh, but she did lean closer. Her voice dropped. "You made my soldiers look weak." Jake turned to her, their knees touching now. "You want to test if I am?" There was a long silence. Her hand moved to her thigh, slow, deliberate. Jake watched, but said nothing. She pulled out a small, glowing vial. Not blue. Red. "This," she said, "is the Queen's version of void venom." Jake raised a brow. "Spicier?" "Much." He took it without blinking, popped the lid, sniffed it, coughed once. "Smells like bad decisions." And down it went. No hesitation. The vial dropped to the floor. Jake didn't explode, didn't melt, but his eyes went wide. And then he started laughing. Loud. "Holy hell, what was in that?" Queen Solara leaned in again, lips just an inch from his. "My number." She pulled back. "Welcome to the game, human." Jake blinked. "Wait, was that a flirt?" She smirked. "You tell me." The hovercraft stopped. The door opened. Jake stepped out into a royal palace so huge, planets could get lost inside it. Guards everywhere, all eyes on him. And then, something sharp pressed against his back. He didn't flinch. "Is this the welcome massage?" he asked. A deep voice growled behind him. "No, human. This is an arrest." Jake turned slowly. A tall alien in golden armor glared down at him. "By royal command," he said, "you are to be tested for weapons of mass seduction." Jake grinned. "Well, guilty as charged." Two guards grabbed his arms. Jake looked up at the queen, now watching from a high balcony. She didn't look worried. She looked entertained. "Let the human trials begin," someone announced. The crowd cheered. Loud, wild, hungry. Jake was pulled into a chamber filled with strange machines, glowing cuffs, floating orbs. And at the far end, a glass room with two thrones. One empty. One occupied by someone else entirely. Someone who wasn't smiling. Someone with human eyes. Jake stopped walking. His heart skipped. His jaw clenched. Because sitting in the second throne was a man who looked exactly like him. Jake didn't move. He couldn't. The man sitting across the chamber had his face. His smirk. Even his bad haircut from 2 years ago. Same stubble, same scars, same jawline that could cut steel. The guards looked nervous. "You okay?" one asked. Jake didn't answer. The other, Jake, leaned forward from the throne. He wore the same bomber jacket, but his was darker, shinier, almost too perfect. "Well, well," Clone Jake said with a grin. "The real thing finally shows up." Jake blinked. "Didn't know they made knockoffs in Royal Labs," he said. Clone Jake chuckled. "Oh, I'm not the knockoff." He stood, walked toward him slowly, eyes locked. "You're the experiment," Clone Jake said. "I'm the upgrade." Jake raised an eyebrow. "You come with extra sass and fake confidence?" They stood face to face now. The guards stepped back. Even they could feel it, like the air was about to explode. Clone Jake leaned in. "You're not special. That drink you took, it only works because I made sure it would." Jake narrowed his eyes. "Explain." Slowly. "I'm bad at science when I'm pissed." "The Queen knew you'd come," Clone Jake said. "So she let the universe see you drink it, because they need a story, a myth." Jake frowned. "A myth? Every empire needs a hero," Clone Jake whispered. "Or a fool." The doors behind them opened. Queen Zalara walked in. Slow, royal, dangerous. She clapped once, and the lights changed. Now the room was red. Jake turned to her. "You cloned me?" "I created balance," she said, smiling. "One Jake to stir chaos, and one to control it." "Why me?" She walked closer. "Because you are everything they fear. Untested, untamed, unfiltered." Jake smirked. "You make it sound sexy." "It is sexy," she said. "But it's also dangerous." Clone Jake stepped aside. "She wants to see who deserves the real throne." Jake laughed. "Lady, I don't even pay rent." "No," she said. "But you do make hearts race, and that's power." Suddenly, walls around them opened. A massive arena appeared, with thousands of alien spectators watching from all sides. Big screens showed both Jakes. A booming voice echoed across the chamber. "The trial of identity begins." Cheers erupted. Bets started flashing on holograms. Aliens chanted, "Real Jake! Fake Jake! Soda Man!" Jake looked at Clone Jake. Clone Jake cracked his knuckles. Jake looked at Queen Zalara. "And what happens if I win?" She smiled wickedly. "You get the throne, and me, for the night." Jake grinned. "And if I lose?" She licked her lips. "You still get me, but you'll wish you hadn't." The crowd lost it. Jake stepped into the arena. So did his copy. Weapons floated down from the ceiling. Swords, blasters, electric whips, and a baseball bat with spikes. Clone Jake grabbed the whip. "Jake!" He took the bat. "Classic Earth choice," someone whispered. Jake spun the bat, cracked his neck, then pointed it at his clone. Let's see if you scream like me too. They charged. Steel hit sparks. Whip cracked. The fight was brutal, fast, hot, explosive. Every move mirrored, every hit answered. The crowd couldn't breathe. And then, Jake ducked. The clone missed. Jake slammed the bat into his ribs. The clone fell back, bleeding red and blue. Jake raised the bat again, but the queen's voice stopped him. Wait! He froze, panting, covered in sweat, bat shaking in his hands. She walked forward, looked at them both, then said, "Which one of you kissed me last night?" Jake blinked. "Clone." Jake smiled. "Plot twist," he said. Jake froze. Bat raised, sweat dripping, heart racing, but not from the fight, from her words. "Which one of you kissed me last night?" He looked at Clone Jake. The bastard was smiling, too confident. Jake's grip on the bat tightened. "She's bluffing," he muttered. Clone Jake licked his lip, the same way Jake did when things were about to get dirty. "Oh, she wasn't bluffing," the clone said. "She moaned." Jake tilted his head. "You think repeating my flirting style makes you real?" "No," Clone Jake said, cracking his neck. "But doing it better makes me dangerous." The crowd gasped. The queen said nothing. She just watched. Like this was her favorite show. Jake lowered the bat slowly. He wasn't sure what hit him harder, the whip or the idea that someone out there was out-flirting him using his own moves. He stepped back, breathing heavy. The clone didn't follow. He just stood there, smug as hell. Jake wiped blood from his lip. "You know what your problem is?" he said. "You talk too smooth, fight too clean, and kiss like a script." The clone chuckled. "And your problem?" Jake grinned. "I improvise." He tossed the bat, straight up. And while the clone looked up, Jake launched a boot right into his chest. Clone went flying. The bat came down. Jake caught it without looking. The crowd roared. Jake spun, ready to finish it, but the floor under them shifted. The arena broke into pieces. Platforms lifted, walls split. Now they were standing on two rising metal towers, far above the crowd. Clone, Jake barely held on. Jake stood tall, chest heaving, shirt half ripped. "Round 2 already?" he said. But then, something strange happened. Queen Solara stepped onto the third rising platform, between them. The towers aligned. She looked at both of them, her dress now glowing with crimson light. "Enough fighting," she said. Her voice wasn't soft anymore. It was cold, royal, dead serious. "You are both dangerous, both unpredictable, both mine." Jake blinked. "Excuse me?" She walked up to Jake, pressed a glowing disc onto his chest. It beeped. He flinched. "What the hell is this?" "Insurance," she said. Then she turned and pressed the same device on Clone Jake. "You will now both wear control tags," she said. "If either of you disobey me." She snapped her fingers. A bolt of red energy zapped the clone. He dropped to one knee, growling. Then she touched a crystal on her bracelet. Jake gasped, like a jolt just kissed his spine. "I turn you off," she finished. The towers lowered slowly. The crowd roared again. They loved the chaos. Jake rubbed his chest. "Do I at least get dinner before the collar play?" The queen smiled. "You're lucky I like your mouth." Clone Jake smirked. "You liked mine first." "Shut up," she said. Then she turned to the crowd. "Presenting the champions of Earth. 2 faces, 1 fire." She raised both their arms. "And soon, they will lead my royal army." Jake yanked his arm free. "Wait, what?" The queen whispered in his ear. "Tomorrow, you fight together, or you both die." Then she kissed his cheek, the exact same spot she kissed Clone Jake before. Jake watched her walk away, hips swaying like war drums. Clone Jake stood beside him. "Hope you don't snore," he said. Jake cracked his knuckles. "Hope you don't moan my name in your sleep." They stared at each other and didn't realize the camera drones were still rolling. Across the galaxy, millions were watching, betting, laughing, and one alien lord, watching from deep space, whispered, "Activate Phase 2. Morning on Zinthar Prime didn't come with sunshine. It came with alarm sirens, training horns, and heavy breathing. Jake Mercer stood in a massive combat chamber, shirtless, sweat dripping down his back. Beside him, his copy. Clone Jake. Also shirtless. Also sweating. Also smug. Two versions of Earth's biggest problem, now working together, sort of. The Queen stood above them, watching from a crystal platform. Legs crossed, eyes hungry. Below, soldiers of every species trained with sharp weapons and sharper fear, but only two had collars on their necks. Jake pulled at his. "Still buzzing," he muttered. "Clone." Jake grinned. "You'll get used to it. Or, you'll start to like it." Jake rolled his eyes. "You would say that." Today's mission was simple. Survive the Gauntlet. A long tunnel of spinning blades, plasma traps, gravity shifts, and seduction drones. Yes, seduction drones. Zinthar's army didn't just test strength, they tested distraction. Jake and his clone stood at the entrance. A metal voice announced, "Welcome to the Queen's Pleasure Gauntlet. Your mission, make it out alive, and keep your pants on." Jake looked at the clone. "No promises," they said. "In sync." The doors opened. Fire burst. They ran. Immediately, lasers shot from the walls. Jake ducked. Clone Jake flipped sideways. Then came the spinning blades. Jake slid under one, feeling the heat shave his chest hair. The clone did a backflip off a wall and winked at a passing camera drone. Then came the seduction bots. They floated down, shaped like every alien fantasy imaginable. One looked like the Queen. Exactly. Curves, smirk, voice, and barely any clothing. She moaned, "Jake, stop running. Let me reward you." Jake stumbled. "Clone." Jake paused. Both looked at each other. "Real or fake?" Jake asked. "Do we care?" Clone Jake replied. They both smirked, but the collar zapped them instantly. "Ow! Damn!" The Queen's voice echoed. "Focus, boys, or I take the toys away." They ran harder. Next section. The mind mirror. Suddenly, both Jakes saw their deepest memories projected around them. Jake saw Earth, war, his mother's last words. Clone. Jake saw something else. Something secret. A lab. Needles. A scientist saying, "He can never know." Jake paused. He looked at the clone. "What was that?" Clone. Jake ignored him. Jake grabbed his arm. "What was that memory?" The clone shoved him. "Focus on the mission." But Jake knew there was more. Something hidden. They sprinted through the final door and collapsed on the floor, panting. Sirens stopped. The Queen walked in, slow, seductive, clapping. "You survived." Jake stood, glaring. "You made us run through blades and horny robots." She smiled. "And now, you're ready." "For what?" Clone Jake asked. "For Phase 2, she said. She pressed a button. The walls opened. Inside, a ship. Sleek, black, with Earth's flag burned on the side. Jake stepped forward. "This was my ship." The Queen nodded. "We found it, orbiting a dead star. No crew, no answers." Jake's hands shook. "Where's my team?" She didn't answer. Jake looked at the clone. He wasn't surprised. In fact, he was smirking. Jake narrowed his eyes. "You knew?" The clone turned slowly and said just one thing. "I didn't kill them, but I watched." Jake's hands curled into fists. His clone, standing just a few feet away, had said it like it was nothing. "I didn't kill them, but I watched." The training chamber went silent. Even the guards shifted uncomfortably. The Queen tilted her head, curious. Jake took a slow step forward. What do you mean? You watched. Clone Jake didn't flinch. I was already online, he said calmly. Inside your ship's system, watching, recording, learning. Jake's jaw tightened. They were my team. They were your weakness. Jake punched him. Hard. The clone stumbled back, lip bleeding. But he didn't hit back. He just smiled. Feels good, doesn't it? Jake grabbed him by the collar. You let them die? I was ordered not to interfere, the clone whispered. She wanted to see how humans break. Jake turned to the Queen. Her eyes were half-lidded, unbothered, even a little amused. You watched them die? He growled. She walked toward him slowly. I needed to understand the depth of your chaos, and what triggers your fire. Jake let go of the clone, took a step toward her. What are we to you? He asked. Soldiers? She smiled. Stories. Jake blinked. Excuse me? She waved her hand. A massive hologram appeared. Footage of Jake drinking void venom, fighting his clone, surviving the Gauntlet. Millions of views. Laughing aliens, merch with Soda Man logos. You're viral, she whispered. The galaxy doesn't follow leaders, it follows icons. Jake looked at his image, his fight, his humiliation. I'm not your brand. No, she said, placing a finger on his chest. You're my weapon. Jake stepped back. I want answers. What really happened to my crew? She raised a hand. The floor opened. A tall pod rose from the ground, steam hissing. Inside, a human woman, eyes closed. Flo, nodding in stasis. Jake's heart stopped. It was Kara, his pilot, his first kiss, his last regret. He ran to the pod, pressed his hand against the glass. Kara. She didn't move. The Queen circled him slowly. She was different, she whispered. Immune, like you, but harder to control. Jake turned slowly. You experimented on her? She bit one of my guards, the Queen said with a smirk. Tore off an antenna. I liked her immediately. Jake's voice was shaking. Is she alive? For now. Jake stared into Kara's face. She hadn't aged. Clone Jake stepped forward. She's the key, he said. To what? The Queen's voice lowered. To Earth's immunity. Jake turned. What immunity? She pointed to him. You survived void venom, not because you're strong, but because your species evolved. Clone Jake added, your DNA, it rejects submission. Jake stared at both of them. His breath caught in his throat. This wasn't just a test. The Queen smiled wider. This was a warning. Suddenly, alarms blared. Red lights flashed. An alien officer ran in, panting. My Queen! Earth! Earth has responded. The room froze. The Queen turned. How? The officer swallowed. They've sent a message. Just one line. Jake stepped forward. What line? The officer turned to him, eyes wide, voice shaking. Send her back, or we burn your stars. Silence. Heavy. Thick. You could almost hear the galaxy holding its breath. The officer's voice still rang in the air. Send her back, or we burn your stars. Jake didn't blink, didn't move. But inside, his blood was on fire. He turned to Queen Solera. Her smile was gone. For the first time since he met her, she looked nervous. You didn't think they'd come, Jake said. She didn't answer. Earth doesn't ask, he said. It warns once, then acts. Clone Jake stepped beside him. Even he looked rattled. How did they find us? He muttered. Jake didn't break eye contact with the Queen. They were never looking for me, he said. They were waiting for you to make a mistake. And she had. She took Kara. She poked the sleeping giant. A massive screen flickered on. A grainy feed appeared. A fleet. Dozens. No. Hundreds of black warships. No flags. No noise. just pure silence, moving through space like a pack of wolves. One of the ships sent a signal. Coordinates. Exact location. Here. Now. The Queen took a step back. "What are those ships armed with?" Jake chuckled. "Earth doesn't name its weapons anymore. It just points." The lights dimmed. Kara's stasis pod beeped. Systems powering down. Jake ran over, just as her eyes opened. She gasped, coughed, looked around, then looked at him. "Jake?" He held her face. "You're okay. We're getting out." She blinked slowly. "You still smell like whiskey." He smiled. "You still look like a bad decision." Queen Zalara raised her hand. "Guards!" Jake turned. "Don't." She paused. "Why?" Because every screen now showed Earth's lead ship. It was called the Neighborhood Watch, and its weapons already armed. A voice came over the comms. American. Rough. And cocky as hell. "Jake, you still alive down there, buddy?" Jake grinned. "Little bruised, little insulted, ready to come."
"Home. Copy that. Bringing the thunder." Queen Zalara screamed, "If you fire on us!" But her voice cut off, because in the sky above Zinthar, it opened. Not a beam, not a bomb. Something bigger. Something human. A metal capsule dropped from orbit. Fast. Burning. Jake grabbed Kara and ran. The clone followed. The palace exploded around them as the capsule hit. The entire throne room vanished in white fire, and standing inside the wreckage was a man in black armor, helmet marked with Earth's flag. He stepped through smoke like a god, raised a massive hammer, and said only 2 words. "Where's the Queen?" Queen Zalara stepped back, shaking. "Who are you?" He took off the helmet, grinned. "Name's America." Jake blinked. "Wait, what?" The man winked. "Kidding. Lieutenant Briggs, Earth Recon, but America sounded hotter." He turned to Jake. "Time to go." Clone Jake asked, "What about me?" Briggs shrugged. "You're the fake, right?" Clone Jake looked at Jake. Jake hesitated, then smirked. "Nah, he's useful and sexy. Bring him too." The Queen dropped to her knees. "You can't win. You're just one planet." Briggs pointed to the sky, where 27 more ships appeared, each one labeled with a different Earth nation. France, Japan, Brazil, even Canada, armed with politeness and orbital railguns. Briggs said calmly, "Earth doesn't send armies." He looked back at her. "It sends family." Final scene. Kara, Jake, and Clone Jake walk aboard the extraction ship. Briggs lights a cigar. Behind them, Zinthar burns in blue fire. The Queen? Gone. But not forgotten. Because someone, somewhere, just posted the video, "Human drinks death, then destroys empire," to billion views in 2 hours. Final line, VO style. They said humans were too emotional, too messy, too wild. Turns out, that's exactly what makes us dangerous. FY.